part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, before we get to today's episode, I want to spend a few moments to thank you for checking out this podcast. It truly means a lot. I started Press Play Podcast in 2018, and 5 years in, we've grown to about 16 shows with over 20 hosts and have a handful of contracted producers. It's a great little operation with 2 shows in the top 5% of all podcasts and some of the best hosts and journalists you'll ever find. I've learned so much and absolutely love talking to people that have helped me become who I am today. If you're interested in learning more about Press Play Podcast, you can check out our website at pressplaypodcast.com or search us in any podcast platform you use. We mainly cover sports and entertainment. We have a Browns podcast, a Cleveland Cavs podcast, a Guardians podcast, a baseball card collecting podcast, and 2 other sports talk shows. We also have a movie podcast, the Fanfare podcast, which I co-host, a book club podcast, a TV show podcast, a Marvel podcast, a DC podcast, and even a Broadway show podcast. My show is very nuanced. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, feel free to subscribe and leave a 5-star review. That will help other people know that you enjoyed the show. And without further ado, Joe Crislip. Here we go. Welcome to the Chase Smith Podcast, a conversation on current events and culture. We are proudly part of the Press Play Podcast Network, empowering diverse voices to launch professional, engaging podcasts. With me today, not the Mothman, not Nick Swisher, not Britton Strange, not White Chocolate, Mary Lou Retton, or Ice Cube, but rather the legendary West Virginia high school basketball coach, Joe Crislip. Coach, thank you for joining the Chase Smith Podcast. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. A couple of days ago, I made a post for people to guess who the guest was, and I told them to think high school West Virginia sports, and those were all the guesses. It's an incredible list, and I really think you belong in that list, Coach. I really do. It's thank you for joining the show. Appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you thinking so much of me to give me a call.
Oh my goodness, you have quite the resume and accolades. You've been involved with basketball for over 40 years in West Virginia and Ohio. You've been named the coach of the year multiple times. You won the West Virginia State title, AAA Boys Basketball South in 2003. I wanted to talk with you because I love basketball. Think very fondly of just my time growing up in Parkersburg and Wood County and all of that. And you were just a figure, as a couple other people, that was larger than life, but you were just a little bit different, Coach. And I want to talk about that because I can't be the only person whom you've never coached who calls you coach. I'm not the only person, right? There's other people that call you coach that you never coached.
Yes, there is, definitely.
Why do you think that is? Why do I feel like I need to, yeah, great parents, but like, why is there that level of respect you found has followed you in your career?
That's a good question. I guess, maybe I've tried to do things right my whole life. I've tried to coach kids. I've coached so many kids, from the school teams that I've coached to a camp that we ran called Preparing for the Future. Where I can't tell you how many kids that we coached over 20 years. And I think, I tried to use good language. I tried to be a good role model and tried to just make sure things were done the correct way. And maybe that's where the respect comes from.
And I think you nailed it. Like, as much as I didn't want to like you or want to just kind of enjoy what you guys made basketball so accessible and so fun. And, I went to your camp almost every year. I can't think of a summer that I didn't go to prepare for the future at South. But all of a sudden, these players that you watch growing up on the court that seem larger than life, they're involved with coaching. You take these players, and there were hundreds of kids at this basketball camp every summer through the locker room. You're watching film, and it was just an incredible environment. And my brain, it was so hard to understand because growing up at Parkersburg High School, you're just get caught up in this rivalry that you're not supposed to like anything South does. And there's just a lot of a fun team to be an enemy just because they're the same city. But it was so hard. And it was evident that you tried to do everything the right way, treat people with respect, have, proper language. But at the same time, it didn't mean you didn't expect excellence or didn't hold people accountable. That wasn't the case either. And you knew that if you went to that camp, just treating people the way that they should be treated. And gosh, it was, you're always going to be coach to me. And I think, no, I don't want to speak for everybody because that could be dangerous, but I have to feel like a lot of people share that same sentiment, coach.
Well, that's nice for you to say that, but that camp is one of my great memories of all my years of coaching. My daughters, to this day, that was their favorite thing of basketball, was coming to camps. And you got to remember, that was before social media.
Yeah. And
so all of you kids, that's where you came to meet your other friends during the summer. And it was a unique camp that it lasted 8 weeks long. Mm-hmm. And we bring grade school kids in on Mondays and Wednesdays, and junior high kids on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and Friday was a makeup day for kids that missed. And it happened 8 days a week from 8 in the morning till 12 noon. And it was well organized. We had tons of people helping us. Coach Wiseman helped me get it started. And I really believe that camp helped the relationship between Parkersburg High School and Parkersburg South because kids started getting to know each other and became friends. And the rivalry's still there, and we still want to beat each other. Right. But they realize that they can have some friends from each side of the river.
100%. And maybe less hatred and more just, honest sportsmanship and just competitiveness, right? I felt like I didn't have any hatred for South. I just felt like it was innocent, like rivalry, and I want to beat them. I didn't beat you guys a lot, I have to say. And I will say your camp coach was a really, at least in my family, they're winning because of the investment you made in the kids for those so many years. That had to help as you coach at the high school level to see not only your own talent at South, but maybe other people at different high schools, right?
Yeah, it did, but I didn't look at it that way going into camp. I wasn't looking and say, gee, how can I beat this kid someday? Sure. We wanted to be there just to make basketball fun. Mm-hmm. We try to teach the fundamentals, but we try to make it where it's fun. I always taught my two daughters to always do their very best in everything they do and to have fun at it. And if they can do those two things, then they're going to have a successful life. And that's what we try to do with the kids at camp is, let's come in, let's work hard, but let's have a good time while we're doing it.
Yeah, well, you succeeded, and you also succeeded in setting the bar extremely high for other coaches in the area. And let me tell you, what do you think makes this Parkersburg High, Parkersburg South rivalry so special? Is it just the proximity, or is there a little something else to it?
Well, definitely proximity. These kids grow up with each other, playing against each other in grade school, playing in the recreation leagues. And so they know each other in travel ball now. You got kids playing on the same team. And so now when you get to play against each other, it's just something special. And it brings out big crowds. The football game's this Friday night. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that they're probably already almost sold out of tickets for that game. And both teams are undefeated. So it's going to be really, really exciting. And it's a fun thing. But I think it's got to the point now where before, I think both sides actually hated each other. Really. But I think as years have gone by and these kids from our camp and from other things, travel ball, they've become friends with each other and they do want to beat each other. But when it's over, they're able to, shake hands and move on. Yeah.
How have you seen just the game of basketball change and evolve over your time coaching and now not, retired? How have you seen the game change? Like if you were to do the prepare for the future now, would you maybe add a couple different elements or kind of keep the structure that you had, or, how the game has changed?
Yeah. The biggest thing I see the way it's changed is, basically there's just a lot of dribble drive penetration, a lot of 3-pointers being shot. We shot a lot too, though. I had some really good 3-point shooters that I coached over the years. So we did put it up a lot also. So that hasn't changed much as far as threes go. But a lot of it now, just a lot of weave handoffs, and they try to get to the basket. I was a big believer when I was younger. I wasn't a fan of Bobby Knight, the way he coached, but I was a fan of how he coached. Mm-hmm. And his players ran a motion offense. And I was always big on everybody get involved in the game. And, we're not just going to run things for one or two superstars. We wanted everybody on the team to be involved. And so we did a lot of picking, a lot of moving. And you just don't see that anymore. It's not part of the game. I think it's part of watching the NBA, the way they play, and it just filters all the way down. And so that style changes a little bit as far as more driving to the basket, and it works for a lot of teams.
Would you say he was one of your biggest coaching influences? Not so much maybe how he acted, but how he played.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
Bobby was. I just loved the fundamentals that he put into it. He was a big believer of not teaching kids how to run plays, but how to play. And that's what I was big at when I coached the South. Was I wanted my kids. I told them, I said, listen, if I got to call plays, I don't consider that a good night. I want to be able, you guys go out there and just play the game like you're playing at Southwood Park or over at City Park. I want you to be able to play like that way. I have a kid like Ryan Hopkins or Matt Shamlin. If I just run a play, well, teams can scout us and they can find a way to shut that play down. But if I just let them play and say, hey, Matt, you can go wherever you want. Ryan, you can just hit the back screen. You can go to, the other team can't really scout what's going on. And then you have great point guards that we had, and my nephew Brian Crislip and Trent McAllister. It makes it fun to watch when they know how to play and they can create things. It makes it tough on the opponents because they don't know what to expect. And all of a sudden, they're fighting out to get our shooters, and we have a Chris Squires or somebody like that dive into the basket for an easy layup because they switched the wrong way. So that's why I like Bobby Knight, because of the way he taught that. And I love it. Let's teach kids how to play basketball, not how to run plays.
I don't want to put you in a spot where you have to say your favorite player or some of your favorite moments, but were there some teams you look back on, you're like, man, that was a really special team?
Yeah, I had several special teams. I started my career federal hockey in 1980. I was there for 4 years. I became a head coach at the age of 23 and had some tough times there. It was hard to win. It was in a very big conference, but those kids gave me everything, and I loved my time there. And then luckily I got to come back to South in 1984, and I got to work for Larry Edwards for 10 years as an assistant. That was a great experience. I learned a lot from him. And then I was the head coach for 10 years after that. And just learned a lot as I went along, and it's been a great experience for sure.
Yeah. I was in high school, 2003, 2004, 2005, right in the heyday of some of your strongest teams. You won obviously state in 2003. Yeah. You mentioned some players that were instrumental in there. And basketball is very, very competitive in that time between our two schools. Both ranked very highly, had some, incredible talent. Players that you grew up playing against your whole life, middle school, they haven't, it's very just an athletic, Titletown, USA, right? It's a very fun place to play sports. But those were some of the most intense moments where you just hear it's so loud, it's a decibel. It's just like a high pitched ring. Like you get into the, whether it's at South or at the field house, and it is just, and it's hard to describe to people unless you've experienced those moments. Those are some pretty intense games. Do you have any, looking back to the 03, 04, 05 years, what are some of your memories of those years, Coach?
Well, I've got all kinds of memories. I'd like to mention one even earlier was first time we made the state tournament, I think in 18 years in the history of Parkersburg South High School. 18 years we had not made the state tournament. Had only made it one time in the history of the school, and I believe it was 1998. We were playing Willing Park at Parkersburg High School, Memorial Fieldhouse, and we beat Willing Park in overtime, and we were down by 14 points with 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. We somehow, through Josh Edmond made 2 foul shots with 1 second on the clock to tie the game to go to overtime. He doesn't make those, our season's over. Ryan Hopkins made one of those incredible 3-point shots I've ever seen. What a great memory. And we won that game. And that place was so loud that entire night. I'll never, ever forget that. The 2003, 2005, just to run with that group of kids was amazing. We made the state tournament 2 years in a row, and the second year's when we won it. And there's a lot of games I remember during both those years, but one was at the Civic Center in the regional. We found a way to beat Capital, and that was big time. And then
they had Cookie. They had Cookie that year. They have Cookie on.
They did.
Yeah.
Yes, Cookie was he could play, and it went down to the wire. We beat them in overtime, and just an amazing experience. And the following, or that same year, then we won our first game in the state tournament. That was the first victory in the history of Parkersburg South at Charleston, and that kind of relieved the pressure. I felt just everybody just kind of took a deep breath. And, wow, we did it! We won a game in Charleston, and then we were able to win the next two games and win the state title. So. Great group of kids for sure.
Coach, I have to ask, this is the Chase Smith podcast. And I never really played unless we were, winning by a ton. I've heard South had scouting reports. I heard you were pretty big on, watching film and tape and team. Did you have a scouting report for the 12th man, Chase Smith, on the bench? Was that something you had, or,
you know what? I've saved my notebooks of all the years, and I could probably go in there and find that year and find what I had written about you. That'd be funny to see what I have. But yes, we would have notes about everybody because we would. I definitely would scout it. I want to at least let my kids be aware of who was coming in.
That's awesome. I have to tell you this story. Okay, now this is a true story, and I've told it countless times, and it wasn't even in my notes. I just thought to tell you this right now. Obviously. I didn't play a lot. I was short. I'm giving my own scouting report, prone to turn the ball over, but I love defense, high energy, and, not a good idea to leave me open. But my best friend is Connor Loudon. Still to this day, we still talk every day, who was the star of the team, Mr. Gatorade player, that it just goes on. And every day we'd play basketball, Coach. We would end. I mean, this had happened since, probably 96, 97, whenever we would just go and play ball together at either of our houses. We would always end every time we would play. We'd take turns. We'd be like, all right, we're down by one. There's, 3 seconds on the clock or on the free throw line, 1-on-1, and we're playing South in the sectionals. Like, that was how we ended every single time that we played ball together for years. And wouldn't you know awesome. Do you remember what happened at the end of in 2005, our senior year? We were playing at South. We're down by one, and who's on the free throw line with like 4 or 5 seconds left? But Connor Loudon. Do you remember this?
Yep.
You have to.
I do. Yeah.
Yes. We all do, because I'm on the bench and I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. I've seen this play out literally thousands of times. And everyone on the bench beside me is like super nervous. And I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen. He sinks them both. So we go up by one, and there's like 5 seconds left. But what we didn't do, Coach, was think about if there was time left, because you guys passed it in. And Zach Sizemore, I think it was on the right side of the court, ended up a baseline shot, and you guys won last second shot. It was insane.
Yes, I remember that game. That was the first year I wasn't the head coach. I got to watch that game.
Really?
In 05, because I retired in 04.
Okay, man. Somehow I missed that in my notes. I think it was just like,
I was there, and it was crazy. Nobody would have dreamed that happened that way, but it did.
Well, we did dream that it would happen that way. We just didn't think that Zach Sizemore would have a shot 4 or 5 seconds
in the dream.
Yeah, I mean, I love Zach. Zach, again, we'd meet at the prepare for the future camp and just play ball, and he was great, and all those guys were great, right? Like Evan Campbell, Ryan Dawson, they were all just like great guys, that enjoyed playing against the other. But that was just so wild to do that literally since we were in elementary school, and for it to like happen your senior year in sectionals at South. I've told that story so many times, Coach, so many times. I'm not a coach. I've helped a couple times, but I am in ministry. I work with students just like you did. And even though it's not the same, I have to think there's a lot of crossover and similarities between coaching and ministry, right? Like there's a lot of sacrifice you have to give, probably weird hours. As a coach, just like in ministry, you're probably, giving a lot of time, energy to other people. And it definitely takes away from your family. Investing in middle school and high school students, it is just so incredibly special and you do create these memories and these moments and these relationships with students that last a lifetime. You still in contact with a lot of former players?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm running into even their kids now coming down to the Elite Sports Center, which my brother and I and his son Brian are running. So I'm running into them all the time. And you're right, the ministry and coaching, I think, does go together. I try to use the coaching to teach kids lessons about life, and that there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows, and we got to learn how to, I always told them it's easy to be happy when you're winning and to work hard when you're winning, but what are you going to do when you're behind, when you're not doing well? And we've had highs and lows. We won the state title in 2003, but just 4 years early in 1999, I had probably the best team that I think I've coached, and that was, 2000. And that was my nephew Brian's group. And we thought we finished years the number one in the state, and we get beat by the Big Reds, Parkersburg, at Parkersburg. Yeah. Back then, we didn't go by seedings. We rotated where it went. Mm-hmm. So even though we were the number one, we had to go to Parkersburg, and they beat us in a very hard-fought game. And I'll be honest with you, I was really low because I thought that was a team. I thought they were going to be the ones who were going to win the state title. They had done so much. They grew up through the community. Everybody knew them. Everybody bought in. And that was a heartbreaker. And that was hard for me to get over. But as I told the kids, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. This is going to hurt. It should hurt. But we got to find a way to come back. And the good Lord had plans for us. And, 2003 comes about, and everything falls away. It had to fall because there's a lot of things that could have happened. We could have lost. Yeah. The Capital kid in the regional I mentioned earlier, he has a foul shot with 1 second. If he makes it, we lose. Yeah. He misses it, we go to overtime and we win. So again, try to teach kids how to live. Try to teach kids how to behave. And I used to always tell them, I said, listen, the way you behave on the floor, someday you're going to be sitting in an interview, and that guy that's interviewing may remember you from when you played sports and remember how you acted. Mm-hmm. And it may make a difference whether he hires you or not. And I said, so you want to be a good example. And hopefully, again, I think a coach needs to be a good example for his players. Yeah. And that's what I always tried to do.
Do you enjoy talking about, like, remember wins and, like, in the past like this? Is something that you enjoy? Do you find ways to talk about
this? Don't do it very often, so the answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's good to bring back memories like that. I'm right now, my mom's going through some tough times with some health issues, and I love just sitting with her, and we just talk about old times, and it's a good thing to do with her. So so it's kind of neat to go back in time and remember the good times that we had, and enjoy every day that you have.
Yeah, man. Do you miss coaching, or do you feel like with the Elite Sports Center you kind of like scratch that itch a little bit?
Yeah, the Elite gives me enough contact where I still see kids, and I get to work with kids. And I'm doing right now a Tiny Tots camp for kindergarten through second grade, and we got about 40 kids. I have a blast with that, and I have some good people helping me. And it's just neat working with these little kids. And there's a lot of tiny toddlers that I had years ago who are now seniors at Williamstown and PHS and South. And it's neat. I remember when they were, 4 years old dribbling the ball around, and now they're really good basketball players the senior year. So the answer is I don't miss high school coaching anymore. It's so time consuming. When I coached, you coach during the 4 months that you started from October to February or March. And we didn't do much in the summer, honestly, with the high school team. I would do the camp during the day, and then I'd open the gym, stay there and eat my lunch, and I'd let kids come in and just play if they wanted, but I didn't do any coaching. I thought the kids need some time off just to be kids. Yeah. Go fishing, go on vacation, go golfing. But today it's not that way. The demand is that it's year-round sport, and when you got a multi-sport athlete, it makes it tough on them. I had a kid named Tim Weigel, who's a dentist now, very successful up in the Columbus area. And he was the quarterback in football, my point guard in basketball, and he also played baseball. And he was trying to do everything in the summertime, and I basically told him, don't worry about me, and, try to do other things. And but it's tough on kids now. And because I think it is important you play as many sports as possible in high school. And then if you want to then go to college, you can settle in on one sport.
Yeah, and it's not like the level of expectation in Parkersburg is low. I think there's a lot of pressure as you got the big ones, football, basketball, and some other big ones. But I think those are pretty high profile positions in Parkersburg, those head coach jobs. And a lot of people share their opinion. That was before social media, right? So,
Right. Right.
You like, there is a high level of expectation with those positions, and you got to be able to withstand a lot of heat. And, I don't know what the, journalism is like now, but I would probably expect, answer a lot of hard questions and be able to kind of deal with that whole aspect of it. Like, it is a high school, but it's a lot of expectation there. I'm sure it's pretty demanding. You know what I miss, Coach? I miss the smell of a fresh lacquered wood court, right? Like things
Yeah.
you just don't think about.
And just camaraderie of the kids in the locker room and the bus trips, and those are things that you do miss. But as far as issues with me, I didn't have a whole lot of social media back then. We first started. Billy Camp helped us with everything that we do there, and he created a web page for us, one of the first web pages, and they had a comment section. And every once in a while, you get a bad comment on there. I said, Billy, take it down. We don't need to listen to people's comments. But I was lucky. I had great parents. My brother Terry, Terry.
Okay, yeah.
I give Terry a lot of credit for the success for South basketball, because he took those kids like that. I would coach them from October to March, and he would take them from March to October doing travel ball and so forth. And he, with his boys, Chad and Brian, he kind of raised a whole group of boys who played with them. And the time they got to me at South, they were good. And I think it's going well now. And Mike Fallon's doing a fantastic job right now with the South Patriots. And I think they've got a great leader. I'm glad Mike was able to be the head coach for us.
Yeah. I actually live in Columbus, and so I need to check out the Weigel dentist guy, see what he's doing. But I'm pretty disconnected with a lot of the sports in Parkersburg. I honestly didn't even know PHS and South played this Friday until a couple of days ago. I was like, oh man, this is a happy accident here. And so I've been disconnected with all programs. And so I just don't really know the state of anyone's program at this point. Do you feel you could guess and predict about the Friday football game? Like, do you feel like that's something you could do? You want to kind of stay neutral there?
Yeah, I'm a South. I played quarterback at South, and so I'm rooting for South to win. But my nephew Brian coached basketball at PHS for the last 4 years, and so I've gotten to know all of his kids, and a lot of them play football. So I'm rooting for them also. So I'm rooting for a very good ball game. Probably rooting for South to win. I got to be honest.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you're allowed. You're allowed.
Yeah, I'm allowed to do that. I think it's going to be a great ball game because South has a lot of good players. This Gage Wright is an amazing running back for them right now. And they got a Garrison boy that's a quarterback. And PHS has David Parsons who's quarterbacking, and he's been having a lot of success with a lot of talent around him. So I think it's going to be a great game for people to watch Friday night. And I think it's going to be a close game.
Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear what happened. Coach, thank you so much for the conversation. This was just so much fun. Have you ever been on a podcast before?
I never have. I wasn't really sure what a podcast was, but I look forward to listening to this, and hopefully you got some good things tonight from us, and people enjoy it.
This has been great. Tell us a little bit about the Elite Sports Center complex, where they can tell us about your website and really give it a nice plug for everyone here, Coach.
Yeah, we opened up in 2009. Terry and I were wanting to just train kids, and we were just going to build a small place. But a long story short, we got connected up with a couple of doctors in town who wanted a soccer facility, and next thing you know, Elite Sports Center got built. And it's, like I said, we've been there for going on 14 years now. And we have all kind of activities, indoor soccer and volleyball and pickleball and like I said, basketball, of course. And we have weight rooms. People come down, get memberships, and have a place to work out, have a place to exercise. So it was built with the design to help kids and to have a place for the families where the parents can be working out where their kids are down there playing basketball. And our website is www.theelitesportscenter.com. And like I said, I got Tiny Tots coming up, and I think I still got about 10 spots open. So if there's anybody out there who'd like to get their K through second grade child involved, boy or girl, we'd love to have them join us.
Well, I'll make sure to put that website in the show notes. So all you got to do is just go to show details or show notes, click the link, sign up for Tiny Tots there. You got to jump on that pickleball train. Good for you guys. That thing has just exploded.
Well, we don't train. We have 4 courts though that people can come in and play, and I think they pay $5 to come in and play for the day. So you can't, or it might even be $3. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a pretty cheap price. And we have a lot of people come in, especially in the winter months, to have a place to play inside.
Great. Well, Coach, thank you so much. You have a wonderful night, and have a great fall. Enjoy the fall.
All right, Chase. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Thanks, Coach. Talk soon. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye, Chase.